This is my 3D printed Arbor press, and it's as stupid as it sounds. I made this one last year, mostly out of curiosity. My goal was for a 100 kilo press, and it came comedically close to that goal before the teeth on the rack failed. Calling it good enough, I released the video, but not the files. That's because the day after releasing the video, this happened.
Well, I found a new point of failure.
New point of failure, indeed. The stupid thing is, however, I really do like using it for its admittedly tiny part of my workflow. I've also had quite a few comments asking for the files, so I thought it time I revisit the project and design something actually worth making. Well, worth making for the right person. But I'll come back to that later. First, let's get to the build. This begins with preparing the steel parts, and I guess now's a good time to talk about the design principles behind this and all of my tool projects. I often don't make these clear enough, I think. Put simply, my primary constraints are cost and ease of manufacture. Cost is obvious, just as low as possible while still functioning. When it comes to ease of manufacture, everything is designed to be made with off-the-shelf components and basic tools, specifically files, a hacksaw, and a drill. I constrain my design to these tools as I see them as something that almost anyone could acquire for little money or even free. Anyways, with the steel prepared, we can continue on with the build. Taking the center block, we install a coupling nut. This gets inserted into the lower piece of 40mm tube to line up with what will later be the center of the workbed. This tube can now be laid into the bottom of the press and secured initially with a M8 bolt. Next, taking the bed, we install 4 heat set inserts, and many of you will be happy to see that these are proper 3D printing inserts, not the injection molding ones I'd been using. The bed can then be placed over the base and secured in place. Moving to the rear of the press now, the lower tube needs another 2 coupling nuts installed. These are followed by the threaded rod for the spine of the press. Into the press body, I install 6 thread inserts, ironically using the old press to make them. These will provide a strong and cheap thread in the concrete I'm about to pour. The body of the press can now be installed over the main column, followed by the other 2 pieces of 40mm tube. 2 more coupling nuts are installed onto the top of the press, as well as 2 lengths of 6mm threaded rod to create the supports for the arm later on. After adding a temporary cover, a bit of glue is added to complete the form. This form is a little different for a couple of reasons. Most noticeably, it feels upside down. The setup and pour here went okay, but I did make some mistakes. Firstly, the use of concrete at all is unneeded, and I'll be removing it from the files I end up releasing. This filling process was poorly thought out and rushed. It was getting dark at this point, and I wanted the form filled so it could dry overnight. Because of this, I ended up cracking the base a bit. Not the end of the world, but annoying nonetheless. Despite all this, I get a decent result and leave it to set overnight. The next morning, everything is dry and I take a moment to smooth off the surfaces. The damage to the shell is obvious from underneath, but not really noticeable when the press is upright. I use some wood putty to get most of the shape back, then paint and tape over that. It's a bit of a rush job, but you really can't tell if you're not looking for it. Instead of my usual foam pads, I use the luxury of a laser cutter to make myself a felt base for the press. I think felt is hands down my favourite material to incorporate into projects. Day 2 ends with a second pour. Really making history here, revolutionary stuff. 2 separate pours in one video. This one goes much better. Funny how not rushing does that. This is then, once again, left to set overnight. Day 3 starts with a little more cleanup before we can continue with the build. First, that steel plate from earlier is added to the top of the column. This is an essential part. It ties the top tube to the bottom one. Following this, we can build the head of the press. This consists of a few spacer blocks and the 2 gears. 2 gears is another change. It means the press goes down when you push down on the arm. The gears are in front of the rack instead of behind it like on most Arbor presses. This is because I wanted the arm to be on as small of a lever as possible. The rack has a bolt and coupling nut for attaching tools and providing extra strength. It is inserted into the head, which can be mounted onto the main body of the press. The head then gets the parts for its arm installed. One end is a small knob, more for show than anything. The other end has 2 nuts and a magnet to keep the arm from sliding around too much. As a final touch, we install a side tooling rack and the front drawer to hold bed inserts and larger tooling. This tooling was all turned on my prototype lathe as part of the last press video. And with that, the build is done. The anticlimactic part is that I'm not doing a force test this time. It's a tool that I want to use. I'm sick of making them and I really don't want to break a third one. Maybe I'm speaking too soon, but I can't see how anywhere on this new frame could fail before the teeth on the rack, which is the intended point of failure. For what it's meant to be used for, I think it works pretty well. Aside from the press fit parts I'll be using it for, I can see it being a good size and force for model makers and similar such folks. Speaking of which, I mentioned that this press is only worth making to the right person. What I meant by that is that this press has 2 advantages: its size and lack of power. For me, I like how small it is. I have a small shop and I can't really justify the space for a larger Arbor press. This press cost me about $20 Australian, which is very cheap, but that's only because this is all material I use for many things. To buy everything new just for this project would be $50 to $60, and for $80 you can get a fully steel half-ton press from Vevor, which is obviously the better option. End of the day, you will know if this is the right tool for you. I'm happy to have one working again since it really does look great on camera, but I'm also happy if I never have to make another one ever again. Thank you to my patrons, and to you, as always, for watching.